From two best friends entangled in the intimate sport of tennis
to two best friends entangled in the intimate art of podcasting.
This week, we're talking in the land of saints and sinners and challengers.
This is The Film Angle.
Good morrow to you, Alex.
Hello, Chris. Hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, actually. I'm not ill anymore.
You're not ill, but you did not watch our BFI blind spot for this week.
Yeah, I didn't get the time to watch Pather Panchali, actually. I'm a bit ashamed to say. I actually was going to plan to watch it today, but everything went out the window when my selfish dog decided to have bad ears that needed treated. So you can blame her. I was stuck in the vets for an hour and a half. So it didn't get time to race home.
we are not going to blame Willow in all of this.
She's a sweetheart.
For your last minute film, for your last minute scheduling of Pather Panchali. Though I do want to apologise for last week, as I think I was calling it Panther Panchali.
Is there a panther in the film? Because I obviously haven't seen it.
No, I have seen it, so it's no longer a blind spot for me. So how are we going to do this anymore?
Well, come on, this is a first, right? We've done about like half of this list. We're doing pretty well.
No, that's true. That's true. We just got to get back on track, Chris. We got to get back on track. If we want to finish it by the end of the year.
And we've got a film coming up really soon on that list that is 9 hours plus long. So yeah, I gotta get
going.
We need to get going. Yeah, exactly.
You can't save that one to the last minute, man.
What are we gonna do with ourselves as soon as the BFI list is done? Like, what are we gonna be?
We've teased, potential ideas of doing the Fast and Furious films. Take it from highbrow to lowbrow.
That really is a dive and a half.
You need to kind of engross me more in the world of Studio Ghibli, as that is a world I've only kind of tipped my tippy toes in. So there's stuff to do there. I'm sure we'll be fine. We'll be fine. The podcast will be fine, and it better be fine because we do have big things coming up, which we'll chat more about next episode. But big thing.
Yeah, I know you've started to tease. Because obviously you do all the social media, Alex. I've seen you've started to tease a little bit of that online. But yeah, I'm really excited to show everybody what the new sort of lick of paint on the film angle looks like. I think we're pretty proud of it, actually, aren't we?
Yeah, just completely spoil it there, Chris. Go on, completely spoil.
I won't spoil how it looks.
I tease big changes. You just go in and be like, lick of paint. Hey.
Well, like a real lick of paint. Like, oh my god, is that the same building?
This teases more than I thought it was going to be, but that's fine.
Okay, so we do have movies to talk about today.
Yes.
We just have one less, and one of these is not necessarily a new release. When did this come out, Alex? I'm talking about a film called In the Land of Saints and Sinners, the newest Liam Neeson vehicle, which I was really surprised initially that you suggested for our new film, because I don't know how many of these Liam Neeson vigilante revenge movies exist, but I've just forgotten. There's just so many of them. And I'm looking forward to talking about this one because perhaps it's not the conventional one. And I think it was a really interesting shout by you.
Yeah, this it is a new release. The distribution rights were bought by Netflix, but it premiered at the Venice Film Festival last year. So it did have a 2023 premiere. But yeah, this is its wide release. So yeah, still a new release.
It's interesting though, because I was talking about that relationship I had with Liam Neeson movies before. You look at the poster for In the Land of Saints and Sinners, and it's like, oh my god, it's another one of these. He's holding a shotgun. He's looking pretty sorrow. It's all grey palette on the poster. I'm like, okay, I'm setting up myself. It's Friday night. It's fine. It's going to be another mid movie that I'm going to have to get myself through. But instead, I find myself, Alex, laughing every 5 minutes. Not because the movie was funny, because laughing at how good the movie was. I was like, why? Why is this good? It's by no means is going to like set the world on fire or like it's a piece of art, but it's a modern Irish Western that's just done well. It's tropey, but it's great performances, a stellar cast, and I was sad when it ended. I had a great time watching this.
Yeah, I was really surprised as well. I remember seeing the trailer pop up on Twitter, and when I watched it and saw it was coming out, in time for the recording, I was just like, yeah, we have to jump on this one. It actually looks quite interesting, and a film I would want to chuck on a Friday night. Yeah, it, like you said, everything about it. Liam Neeson doesn't exactly pick A-list vehicles anymore. The poster doesn't do it any credit. I do, however, love, number one, massively long title, In the Land of Saints and Sinners, is then followed by a tagline, Haunted by Sin, Hunted by Sinners. There's a lot of text going on. There's a lot of text. But yeah, Liam Neeson plays a hitman who is, coming to the end of his time. He wants to retire and settle down, but this film is set against the backdrop of the Troubles, and members of the IRA on the run end up kind of hiding in this little Irish coastal town in Donegal. Have I pronounced that right, Chris?
Thank you. Donegal, but you'll get away with it.
Donegal. And one of them, it's not kind of explicitly said what he does, but he's messing around with one of the young kids that Liam Neeson is friends with. And so Liam Neeson decides to take that into his own hands and does what he knows best and assassinates the guy.
Yeah.
which leads him on a bit of a the hit is suddenly on him as the members of the IRA try to hunt him down, led by Kerry Condon.
Yeah, it's funny to say though, like he does this hit on this guy minutes after he's just quit being a hitman.
Yes.
Well, actually, no. We get a little montage. He says to Colm Meaney, who is he's the contractor of the hitman sort of organization in the countryside locally in Donegal. I'm sure that does not exist. He suggests to Colm Meaney, well, maybe I'll just I'll plant a garden. That's what I'll do with myself for the rest of my life. Become a useful member of society. So he goes to the nearest corner shop and buys all their seeds. And he's not very good at it either. So yeah, this fugitive, he's part of the IRA gang. He is staying with a sister in her caravan. The sister's got a little daughter. And like as you said, I think he's being physically abusive to her because Liam Neeson notices like marks around her neck when he sees her fishing, and she says, "Oh, I better catch something for dinner or I'll get hit," or something like that.
Yeah.
So he latches onto her really quickly, and then so that's enough to give us a jumping leap into watching this IRA gang and Liam Neeson kind of their worlds collide, and it becomes a bit entangled and messy. And as you said, Alex, Kerry Condon leads this group. Holy hell!
Last seen in The Banshees of Inisherin.
Yes, yeah. For me at least, anyway.
Yeah,
she might have been in something else recently.
She might have been.
But she is insanely good in this. This movie doesn't even deserve a villain this good. She is incredible. It really harkens back, this film, to the old Western. I mean, even the way it's shot, the way its characters are mapped out. You have Liam Neeson, he plays Finbar Murphy. What a name.
Great name.
Great name. And he's not got a protege, perchance, but he's got like a reluctant protege in Jack Gleason, who everybody remembers played Joffrey in Game of Thrones before he retired.
Which again, this is his return to acting, I believe, right?
Yeah, he retired straight after Game of Thrones, you're right. And so he plays a younger, more sort of bloodthirsty hitman who kind of enjoys the fun of it all. And he gets entangled with Liam Neeson and they form a bond. This is so like any John Wayne Western. Think like Rio Bravo or some sort of Howard Hawks Western film. We get all these sort of adjacents story-wise to all those sort of old movies. But yeah, Kerry Condon is like another great villain. She reminded me of Rebecca Ferguson in Dr. Sleep a few years ago. Just like a real knock your socks off, scary femme fatale sort of performance. Somebody, the sort of scary villain that like kind of thinks their ideologies are so intense that they're not monsters, but the things that they do are monstrous.
Mhm.
And so she really does her best to flesh out this person as much as possible and make her even scary as opposed to Liam Neeson, who's twice her size.
Well, I was gonna say that I think that was the bit where I was like, she's doing such a good job here. And it is a really good performance because there is a scene where she confronts Liam Neeson outside of a public toilet, which is a
There's
weird
a
thing to
game
say.
of Gaelic football going on in the background.
Yeah,
There's like
yeah.
hundreds of people around. Yeah.
And you're kind of nervous. You're really nervous, which is weird because, like you said, Liam Neeson is huge compared to her. But yeah, she's really kind of threatening and powerful in this film.
So are we nervous because she's threatening and powerful and unpredictable, or are we nervous because we've got attached to Finbar at this point, or is it kind of a mixture of the two?
Definitely a mixture of the two. Definitely a mixture of the two. But you're right. Like Liam Neeson's doing such a good job here. He's
acting.
A very quiet performance from him. He fits in because he famously doesn't do accents. Even when he thinks he's doing an accent, he is not. Apparently, he did say that he was playing Qui-Gon Jinn as an Englishman.
Okay, and what in this?
No, when in Star Wars, it was just one of those things which I think is really funny. When I think an interviewer asked him, was it like an instinctive choice to play Qui-Gon Jinn as an Irishman? Have Irishness represented in Star Wars, and he was like, I didn't play him as an Irishman. He was like,
To be fair, though, like I think Liam Neeson is so detached from Star Wars as a brand, he probably doesn't remember what he went for in that film.
Oh yeah, he's the new Harrison Ford, where he's just like, I'm so done with the fan base. I don't want to talk about Star Wars anymore. Which is fair. It was in one film.
Wasn't that fair? I think I heard him in an interview say that like people who come up to him in airports about Star Wars really annoy him. He thinks that they should just get a life.
yeah, that sounds about right. He's the new Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I'm hearing him say midichlorians in my head right now, and it just sounds exactly the way I just said it. So it definitely wasn't good for an English accent.
But I've kind of gone off topic here. Sorry to bring it. It's just something that always makes me laugh. That he was playing him as an Englishman, and you just think, no, you weren't. But yeah, no, he's like, it's such a very kind of quiet performance, really kind of just soft and lovely, despite the fact that he's essentially a cold-blooded killer.
It's like those Western films as well. It's like the old bounty hunter. He's turned into a farmer. He wants to just live a simple life and have a family and a wife, and then suddenly the ranchers come along and they kind of want the land back. It's that sort of. It's not the same thing, but it is in the same way.
Yes, yeah, and he's got a lot of rules, and like the act of killing is a very kind of respectful thing. There's a lot of pathos to it.
There's a nice little tree on top of their heads after they've died.
Yeah. But I think the moment I was in on this film was his first kill. He takes him to dig his own grave and be shot, and he gives him a minute to say whatever he wants to say, and you can tell this is a man who will let them speak for the full minute, but as soon as that minute's over, that's it, you've had your time. But this guy obviously says some stuff that kind of hits Liam Neeson and sets up this idea of what is an ending for a man who does this, and then begins to sing. And it's really interesting because the minute goes over and you're expecting him to shoot him and cut him off immediately, but he doesn't. And I just thought that was a really nice touch, and I think sets up the whole film really, really perfectly. There wasn't there wasn't a lot I disliked about this film. I think it gets a bit corny in places. When he's talking to Jack Gleason about killing and being respectful and stuff, it comes across a little like weird.
Gives him all his money, like go to America, live your dreams. Yeah.
And I do think that despite the fact that the violence is a powerful part of this film, but it's in short bursts. Those short bursts are not always very well done. They're a little CGI blood squirts and stuff like that.
The fire looks quite dodgy in certain scenes, and
took me out for a minute, but
it's okay. This movie's working at the limit.
Yeah, it is. But it's really well acted. It's an interesting story, and I was on board throughout the whole film. I love the Western vibes. Clearly, very much drawing from those kind of cliches and music and themes and
Yes, the
stuff.
score is really good in this. Really
Yeah.
old Hollywood score. Even like scenes where people are talking to each other across the dinner table or having breakfast or anything like that. There's like real orchestral strings and like it's Irish mixed with Wild West music. It works really well actually, especially that we get a lot of big epic landscapes. Even for this little small town, it really shows the impressive coastline of Ireland and that part of the world. Donegal is well known for beautiful coast. So yeah, you got to squeeze that in, right? You got to make the most of those areas. And another shout out to Kieran Hines, I think,
Mm-hmm.
who plays the Garda. Vincent O'Shea. He's kind of like Finbar's best mate. He doesn't know that Finbar's a hitman. Am I
Yeah.
right? He doesn't know he's a fit. Yeah.
No, he doesn't. No. There's kind of like a bit at the end where he's like, "You're not a bookseller, are you?"
No, I'm not. But yeah, he's great in this too. I always think he is such an underrated actor, even though he is in every Irish film ever made. He's usually the best, one of the best things about those films. And he's such a chameleon. If you're from Ireland, Alex, I don't know if you notice
I'm
it
not.
as much. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people listening. I know you're not Irish.
I don't know if you know this.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but you're not Irish. He's so good at different dialects. Like it's like England. It's like America, like anywhere. It's like different dialects per county. He will always be the right dialect for whatever county his movie is set in. He's amazing at this. And from someone who's from Northern Ireland and around that area, I just appreciate it so much. So that's a little thing for me. I don't know if other people will pick that up, but he is so specific. He is somebody, he knows what he's playing. I love it.
Yes. Yeah. No,
But he's always so good. He's so sympathetic. He's got such a great face, a ghoulish kind of face, like it belongs in some sort of like stop motion Tim Burton movie almost. But he is so fun to watch.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. I think my first ever introduction to him was probably Game of Thrones.
Or he got shot in Bruges.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, actually, no, that was my first introduction. Want to talk a little bit, maybe something that I thought was going to play into it more. At the start, we have a bombing done by the IRA, and Kerry Condon steps in and tries to prevent some kids from getting blown up by this car bomb that they've placed. That obviously sets up them being kind of doomed from then on. They're on the run, and it's going to catch up to them at some point. With the fact that her brother was potentially beating up this young girl in the village, and her being around the pub near the final shootout and stuff like that, I thought it was going to play into more about potentially some kind of, not full-blown redemption, but there was some kind of empathy and sympathy there, and this realization that Kerry Condon had at the end that maybe she'd messed up a little bit. We didn't get that.
It's teased, yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of, I guess for me, I was like, I feel like there was something set up there that didn't really ever pay off, and if not, was it to show that there was a sympathetic side to Kerry Condon? Because for the rest of the film, she's just a loose cannon.
Yeah, she is like fully dedicated to the cause. And yeah, I think the film really wants to take the time to make sure that she's not displayed as a fanatic. But you're right, it doesn't fully commit to that. Especially, it's disappointing considering that it's the first punctuation point that the movie starts on, is that point of empathy for her. And then it teases it a couple of times in the film, peppers it, but never doubles down. But I do really like the scene with Colm Meaney, who she confronts to kind of find out who killed her friend, and the member of the IRA we all know is Liam Neeson, as we teased earlier on. And so she kills him, gets the information, and his mother is in the room next door, and she screams after hearing the gunshot. And Kerry Condon's hidden behind the door and is telling the mother to go hide and lock herself in her bedroom. And she's saying it in a really calming, maternal way as well. But it's really scary because we don't see the mother, we only see Kerry Condon. And we can, by her performance, you can tell that if the woman comes in, she will shoot her. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't want to do it, but she's dangerous enough that you know she will. So it adds this real layer of tension to the scene. I don't know if it's really in the screenplay, but she certainly does that in the performance. So that was one of the real highlights of the movie for me. That I felt like on edge of my seat.
That was a great scene. That was a great scene. Yeah, I was just very pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this one.
Look, there's nothing wrong with being conventional, sentimental, or just, by the numbers. If you do it well, you can do this sort of thing well, and it is entertaining. And I think a lot of people are just going to miss this movie because they'll think, like I did, that it was just another Liam Neeson vehicle. That is just forgettable. I walk him on the tombstones or never taken sort of thing. It is not that film. It's a lot more. And I think people should check it out. I really do think people should check it. I'll be recommending it to my family, 100%.
Definitely. And I am happy that the backdrop of the Troubles was very much just a backdrop, so that you and I, an Englishman and a Northern Irishman who did not grow up in that era, have to discuss the politics of it.
Come together. Yeah, no, certainly that is just like, that is window dressing for this film. Yeah.
Are we proof that we've come a long way?
Are we proof? I think, Alex, you go to any university in Northern Ireland, I think you're fine.
Never did they see this coming, eh? They didn't see this coming, did they?
2024, we'd have it sorted, baby.
Yeah, there will be a podcast.
Me and Alex will be taking selfies at Stormont tomorrow with the First Minister of Northern Ireland. You're all welcome to come. Well, I think we praised that movie well enough, Alex. Whetted the appetite of people who were on the fence of maybe seeing it. Mm-hmm. Should we maybe segue onto our big movie? I know you're really excited to talk about this one. I've never had this guy be so emphatic about like just getting back to me after seeing a film and just wanting me to see it as quickly as possible. You were invigorated by this thing.
Oh my god! I am. I think I'm going to try not to gush too much, but I'm very much in love with Challenges, the new film by Luca Guadagnino or Guadagnino.
Yeah,
I say Guadagnino.
Guadagnino. It's that GN in there, isn't it? It's like a little yeah.
Somebody get back to us on that one.
Someone who's got Italian descent or something, just call us idiots, please.
Yes. Yeah. Luca Guadagnino is the director of one of my other favorite films, Call Me By Your Name. He also did A Bigger Splash, the Suspiria remake, and recently Bones and All. There was also that one with Tilda Swinton, which was, I haven't seen it in a long time. Was it just called Love or something like that? God, that was a really good film as well.
Yes, that was back in 2009.
I Am Love. Yeah. Oh man, that is a properly good film. So yeah, I am always ready to go watch one of his films from day one, because I am a big fan. And I think I was quite excited for this film. I think I might have mentioned in the review of last year in our biggest episode on that, when we were talking about films we were most excited for, I think this was top of my list. And it had been moved from last year, similar to how Dune Part 2 was. It was moved into the early stages of this year instead of coming out last year.
Interestingly, both Zendaya films, yeah.
Interestingly so, yes, yeah. I'd heard the reviews, and I was pretty confident I was gonna like it. And when I was in the cinema for a good film, I didn't realize I was going to come out absolutely astounded and in love with this film, and just so happy to have seen yet another kind of masterpiece in my mind in the cinema, and be able to watch that in real time and realize that in real time as well, because not every film you realize is going to become one of your favorite films. Sometimes you're a bit on the fence about going too high on the praise. You need to go watch it again. But no, I'm pretty confident that on one viewing, I am in love.
That's a really good point, actually. Because, don't you see loads of, movies where you're like, oh, I'm enjoying this, and then the ending is somehow, amazing or something, or does something stupendous, and then that overrides your thought process, and then you end up thinking, oh, that was an amazing film, but maybe it wasn't. Yeah, you're right here. I'm not going to argue much with you on this episode of the podcast.
No, Alex, I know you're a giant fan as well, aren't you?
Alex, I think this is my favorite film of the year so far. And I've seen Dune Part 2 3 times in IMAX. So, that's not like, that wasn't an easy one to override on any year, actually. I am so on board with you and feeling like I was just so on board with this movie from the beginning. Everything that Luca Guadagnino is doing creatively, visually, with the actors, the characters, and just conceptually with, it is just so invigorating. I just can't help but feel so excited and amped up when I watch this film. Like, it's the only film I've considered in some time that's this sort of film that's not a big epic blockbuster. That I'm like, I might go see this like a couple more times. Like, I'm considering it.
I really want to see it again. I don't know how I'm going to fit it into my busy schedule, but I really want to see it again.
I know, right? And yeah, I don't know if it's like surprising. I'm like you. I'm a big Luca Guadagnino fan. I know a lot of people are a little bit on the fence of his work, and but yeah, I've enjoyed all of his films. You even gave me a poster of Suspiria, the sort of reboot of it whenever it came out a couple of years ago, and I've still got that at home. One day I might stretch that out one day on a big frame because it's a beautiful blood-soaked poster. But
yes, yeah. I forgot I gave you that one. Yeah, I must have been working at the cinema at the time when it came out.
Yeah, that's right.
I forgot about that.
You have to get that back now.
Challenges for anyone who isn't in the know is about tennis, and if the trailers were to lead you to believe, tennis and threesomes. But no, it isn't just that. But Zendaya plays a character called Tashi, who is a tennis coach, and she is coaching her, I believe, boyfriend. Oh no, his husband at that point, isn't it? Husband, Art, who is ready to kind of become the Grand Slam champion. And he, at the start of the film, is he's lost his edge a bit, and he's taking part in a kind of low level tournament where he comes across one of his old best friends, and we don't know much about it at the start. And it's interesting because the trailer for this actually kind of builds it up chronologically, and I thought that was the kind of film we were going to get. But no, this film plays around with time a lot. So the main structure of the film is the tennis match. The whole film takes place over the structure of this tennis match, and we jump back in time and kind of find out more context behind why this is not just any tennis match. It is the tennis match to end all tennis matches. And I love that because I think the trailer gives I thought maybe quite a bit away, but you are almost given all those kind of things immediately. The scar on Tashi's leg to show that she's injured herself, the fact that they're no longer the fact that the two friends are no longer duos, and the fact that one of them is doing amazingly and one of them is not doing so well. I thought the film was just going to play out chronologically and we were going to see all that happen, but no, we're going right. We know the outcome. Let's see how we got there and find out some little nuggets along the way. And it probably takes like a minute to settle into that. Like it took for a minute, I was like, "Oh, this is not what I was expecting it to be."
Mm-hmm.
But the exact moment I knew I was in safe hands was when the music kicks in. This incredible score, this kind of booming, bassy techno score, which is who was it again? It's Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross who did the score.
Yeah,
amazing. And as the tennis match starts, the camera slowly zooms and moves across the field where they're playing straight onto Zendaya's face. And there's something about that and the music. I was just like, oh, this is going to be one hell of a ride, man. And then it absolutely was. I from that moment, I was in, and I was in the whole way.
See, this is how you manifest and play with time cinematically in a way that's not self-indulgent, but only helps and aid the film and propels it narratively and for the characters. Although I'm not throwing shade on Nolan. I found for like things like Oppenheimer last year, that was something that was a bit overdone for me. But here, even though it's even more done probably in this film, it only assists. I've never seen de-aging and aging done in a film so well that only uses the removal of body hair.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah. Lots of haircuts. Lots of I've grown a beard now. Zendaya
but you
trimmed her
believe it.
hair.
I believe that these
You
people are
do
like,
believe it. I
yeah.
must say, when pretty early on, when we're in the more present day segments, Zendaya's there. She's married to Mike Feist's character Art, and this little girl comes in, and we find out that it's her daughter. And I was like, Zendaya does not look like a mother to me. She does not look like somebody who has a toddler running around. So that, I would say, that was the one bit where I was like, I'm choosing to believe this. I'm choosing to believe
Okay,
this.
I think she's very good at carrying herself in that sort of busy mother way that like I bought into that much, and I believe that this is a woman who's like sort of in the position of being a little bit less disinterested in her partner. This is so complex, this film. I don't even know where to start. I have never been treated to this depth of character study in like the last year. It's such a tease on that level. But I wasn't like you, Alex. So I actually didn't see the trailer for this at all.
Oh,
And apart from Mike Feist and Zendaya being in this film, I didn't even realize who the third guy was, Josh O'Connor, who I'd seen in Emma a couple of years ago, the film with Anya Taylor-Joy. And so whenever he first comes in as a character, I didn't even know, oh, this is the guy that blah, 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 blah. I didn't know until the flashback happened. And that really worked for me. For someone being completely blind, that was a really fun way to watch this film.
That is good. You must have seen the images that got shared around though, with Zendaya sitting on the bed.
I've seen the memes and the images, but like I didn't
You hadn't
really.
clocked. You hadn't clocked that.
Yeah,
was
I didn't study it. Like, yeah, you're right. And I was really excited for Mike Feist because anyone knows me, I love musicals, and West Side Story, the Spielberg one. I think it's an underrated classic already. I think it's amazing, and Mike Feist definitely was like the guy in that cast that really stood out for me. And I was like, oh my god, I'm going to watch this guy and everything that he does now. So yeah, he's definitely delivered there. Oh, Luca Guadagnino, man, he's still got it. I didn't know he had it in this. Had it in him to do something at this level, though.
Yeah, though I would also like to give props to the writer of this film. So I think this is the first film that he's actually had produced. Justin I don't know how to spell his name. Justin Kurzik. I'm going to go and say it's that. Justin Kurzik. Who, I don't know if you know this, Chris.
I
You're
do,
smiling, so I'm assuming you know this.
I
Is the husband of Celine Song. So, yes, the
Power
director
couple.
of Past Lives. Yeah, the power couple. And two amazing writers of strangely conflicting love triangle films.
Yeah,
Oddly unique.
Crazy, right? I mean, both probably responsible for like two of the greatest films in the last couple of years. So, yeah, they got to be
actually went for the role of the husband in Past Lives.
Oh, interesting. I guess it's hard in retrospect to see that now because it was so well done in Past Lives. But yeah, I can see it. I can see it. He's too young. He's too scrappy, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the other guy works. I could believe him as an artist. Well, but that being said, I can believe Mike Feist as a tennis player here.
Mike Feist is like if Top Cat was a person.
Yeah. Well, talking of him being a tennis player, like, how much do you know tennis?
Not a lot, man.
No,
Not
I don't
a lot.
know any. I know the scores are weird, and I think maybe that was the one thing that kind of.
15 love, 30, deuce and all that.
I don't fully understand the scores and the sets. There were a few times where I thought somebody had lost or won, and it was like, nope, next point. I was like, wait, I don't fully understand.
I used to play topspin a lot, so I know how the scoring works, but I just don't know really about like the other intricacies of tennis. But yeah.
But my point was, you don't need to know tennis
to
know this film. And somebody like me who doesn't watch tennis, I might have played it a couple times. Can love this film because it sets up tennis very similar in the same way that the Red Shoes does, like ballet. It's kind of like this probably isn't what it's like, but you're in this world.
It's the
And
dynamics of that
yeah,
industry. Yeah.
and I did listen to an interview with Luca Guadagnino, who describes Zendaya's character as the Lermontov of kind of
Oh,
challenges.
sure,
And
sure.
she's put in the pieces into play to create this brilliant thing. And that did get me thinking, and I was thinking this throughout the film as well, because the music is so overpowering, and the visual language is so beautiful, it's so grand, it's so big, despite the fact that this is just about a tennis match and the relationship between these three characters. Like, it never strays away from any of that. It is solely a focus on that thing, but yet it feels huge. And I feel like Guadagnino here has created an opera about tennis. Like, that is what it feels like to me. This is, the emotions are dialed up to 11. Everything's so heightened, and it's crazy. And I just feel like he's truly created this orchestral masterpiece.
I think that's a really good point, actually, because he makes, there's so many sports that are out there and they're all equally big and intense in their own way, but the way he shoots it and the way he makes it so central to these people's lives and so life or death makes it seem like it's the only sport worth caring about for whilst you're at least in the cinema room anyway. And I think you're right. We'll have to spend some time talking about the score, because it is such a propulsion device in this film. A shot of adrenaline every time that you hear it, and you hear it a lot. So if you don't like techno, this might change your mind.
And it comes in, it's almost like dropped in at seemingly random moments, I think.
Almost like an 80s, like Ferris Bueller sort of way. It's kind of dropped in, yeah.
And it's really intrusive sometimes. You'll have quite a quiet scene, but then suddenly it'll just click in. The music will start. And I don't know if this was my cinema, so you'll have to tell me, Chris, but it drops in during the argument scene, and it drops in during the sauna scene. Dialogue was quite difficult to hear during those scenes when the music was playing. Was that for you? For me, I was like, if this is not the cinema, then it's a choice, and I do actually quite like the choice. But let me know if you could understand fully what they were saying.
Yeah, I could understand what they were saying. No, I had the same thing. I think it is the sauna scene, or I think it's any moment when the camera is focusing in on the lips, particularly when people are speaking. And I think it's more just like, the words are not important here. The sexual intensity is, and the music is only just kind of propelling that and underpinning it. And I think it's just kind of like, we're going to give you the dialogue to hear what's going on here, but like, this is what actually matters.
Yeah.
It's like the end of the movie. It's like, I feel people who like a conventional plot storyline are going to be disappointed where this movie goes, because it's not about the tennis match. It's about the three of them and their relationship, and like where it goes, because where it goes is pretty fascinating and pretty primal. Which is,
but you say it's not about the tennis match, but the tennis match, the characters talk about tennis in a way that it is about relationships. So the film kind of is about tennis.
Yeah,
I know that sounds silly, and it sounds kind of corny and a little bit cringy when it comes out of Zendaya's mouth, but that is what this film is all about. Good tennis to these characters and in this world is all about relationships. It's a battle. It's a gladiator fight. It's this emotional thing. They're in it together. And yeah, I don't believe that is the case in real life. Maybe I need to watch more tennis. But in this world, it is, and then it delivers on that, I think, at the end.
Yeah, I think Tashi says when we go to the backflash scenes, the two guys are watching her play for the first time, and she explains it was like, we were having like me and the other player, we were both having an intimate relationship on the court there. We were both in rhythm. We were the only two that mattered in that moment. So yeah, it does manage to make a sport that's not conventionally pretty sexy, very sexy in this case. But yeah, I also really clocked in the sort of the motif of food in this film. Yeah. I don't know if you kind of thought about that, but I know there's one scene in particular. Everybody's talking about churros now. But, especially in these backflash scenes when the guys are young and they're sort of pursuing Tashi, there is this sort of real emphasis on them devouring food. Anytime they're talking together, they're at some cafeteria or at a cafe or just walking or just eating something, and it really is. It's like everything sexual, sort of like, um, is predecessed by food. First of all, it's kind of like the appetizer before it's suppressing their appetites in a way, but it's almost vampiric. Almost kind of reminded me of Raw, that sort of thing, that like the suppression that is going on is super heavy. But and you can tell the tension between these two guys is really intense too, as we see in the first sort of scene when they're all three of them are together. The scene that everybody will remember from like the trailer and memes online of Zendaya kind of orchestrating this threesome. It is a scene, all right. It'll if you weren't on board in that moment, you'll be sitting up from there on.
Yes, but you say initiating this threesome. It is a film that was sold on this idea of it being a film potentially about sex, and there are no sex scenes in the film.
No, and yeah, it's how he manages Guadagnino to kind of like completely get you sort of really like sweaty watching a movie like this. I think there's no better way to say it though. I mean, it's one of those films that is so high octane that, and there's no nudity at all, like you said, going on here, but you still manage to like feel that going all the way through it. It's just mastery in editing and placing the camera in the right place and the performances. It's just everything is working right.
I would argue though, and tell me if you agree with me here or not. The film is not sexy. But it is very, very horny.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah,
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. I think it can be unglamorous about horniness too. I really do think it goes back to that word I used earlier. I think this is a very primal movie, and you're right. It is kind of about tennis, but I'd say this film is ultimately just about competition. I guess that's the one thing I think about. This could be the other name of the film, to be honest. But yeah, it's tennis is relevant, but it's also irrelevant. It just is a movie about no matter where your line of sports is or what profession you're in, that these dynamics can kind of exist anywhere, and it's kind of not talked about openly. And I'm sure like a lot of people might relate to this story that didn't feel like they could relate to a story like this. So
yeah, it's not conventionally, the love triangle is not straight, it's not gay. It
doesn't want to put a label on anything.
It dabbles
really
in
like,
bisexuality at times, but then it does feel like it's more of a stronger relationship between the two guys, but not really a sexual relationship. It's very interesting. It plays with those dynamics a lot, but I really liked that it almost like nothing was, there were no rules to this. It was kind of like it could go any way.
Yeah, and I really like the way that, the two guys, they end up making out during this scene. And it's never like brought up as a plot device later on. It's like, oh, we have to get over the fact that we need to talk about that we kissed. These guys just like carry on. And I really like that. He didn't, Guadagnino didn't like kind of push himself into having to go over the facts of where we are, where's our labels at here.
Well, I think he's always been a director that has like just been like sexuality is very much a fluid thing, and it's not something these characters do need to discuss.
No, it's not something to be demonized at all. It's very explorative, isn't it? Yeah,
I liked how fluid it all was, and I think in those, the teenage scenes with the three of them in the bedroom and stuff, I think it really nails that kind of just
the curiosity,
hormonal curiosity, just kind of very charged feelings in that moment. And
very funny scene as well. It is very funny.
It is very funny. It's very funny. Yeah. I was kind of brought. Yeah, almost
when she sits on the bed and she says, "Why don't you come up here?" And then the Mike Feist says, "Which one?"
Yeah,
and then they both just run for it. That's really funny.
It just it reminded me of being a sweaty hormonal teenager again. Everything this film had going for it was just excellent. Going back to the music, just for 2 seconds. Sorry, I realized we kind of jumped all over the place here
No,
a
I'd
little
love to talk
bit.
about the music because it's really like stayed with me.
What's your thoughts on it jumping in at random points? I'd need to see it again, but my first impression was potentially it's connected to Josh O'Connor's character Patrick
Okay.
more than anybody else's character. But my partner Em was saying that it definitely plays in more scenes where he's not there as well. So maybe my theory is not spot on here. But there was a bit near the end where I was thinking, this cuts in every time he gets really like riled up and charged up about something. And I wondered whether that was something you noticed, or maybe you could be like, no, there were definitely scenes where that played and he was not
Well, now you're
there
making me
either
second guess.
as an observer or actively part of the scene.
Right. Okay. Now you're making me second guess. I think this is kind of part of the reason why I am so excited to see this a second time, is just to kind of pay attention to the choices that Guadagnino and his camera team make, because there is a lot of cuts in this film. This movie is very playful. I think if you put a camera everywhere you can ever put a camera in a tennis match. Really, whether it's on the racket, on one of the players, underneath the ground, it's everywhere. It's but I kind of saw it as a all three of them sort of thing. I can't remember it being attributed to one person. I just kind of thought of it as every time that a certain piece of dialogue or a scene changed tempo, or the stakes of a scene changed, then it would come out of nowhere, and it's almost like a switch got turned on somebody. So that's why I liked how jarring it was. Is very hypnotic from that point of view. And so yeah, I'll have to revisit it again because I didn't quite notice that. Maybe I was too busy focusing on the churros.
Maybe I was. Maybe I was overthinking it.
But Anne might be onto something. Yeah.
No, that was my thing.
You're fucking wrong.
Yeah, there you go. Shall we talk the ending a little bit and the specific end point, but also, when we finally have all the context and the scenes play out, and there's this incredible match of tennis. You start off not really caring about them swinging a ball around. You don't know what's at stake, but then in the end, you know what's at stake. And Luca Guadagnino's just like, do you know what? I'm going to film this tennis match every single bloody way I can. The camera's going to be on the ball. The camera's going to be on the racket. The camera's going to be underneath them, above them, to the side of them. It's going to follow them. It's crazy. At one point, it's just cutting between them. The rackets hitting each other. It's almost like swords are clashing with each other. I was so pumped during this final scene. A tennis match filmed like a fight scene. I was just in love. And then it ends with this final kind of point. And all three characters are in the air at that point. More so Art and Patrick. But Zendaya jumps up in the air and she's screaming this, like, come on, which is a callback to her in her younger years, because I think what she's done here is just she's gotten what she wants, which is really good tennis. That's all she wanted, was a really good game of tennis. That's what she lives for, and she has orchestrated the perfect tennis match.
Yeah.
And they kind of end with them falling into each other's arms a little bit, but it kind of cuts to black quite fast. I've seen some people put off by how I don't know if it's like deliberate it ends, but I had no issues with it. I don't know about you.
No, I had no issue. I can't really argue with anything you said. I think you really eloquently kind of summarized everything that makes the ending so adrenaline fueled and puts a great full stop at the end of the film. I really like as well. Like Tashi is almost like, I think you're right. She's so invigorated by the fact that she's now a part of something that she loved so much and kind of only really cared about on an emotional, lower instinctful level. But at the end of it, I think it's like a teleportation back in time. It's back to that moment that where we were at the beginning of the movie, and the potential for that to be the reality now, or at least for this for this moment. It might be the only time she ever feels like this ever again in her life. But at least at this point of time, for all three of them, regardless of the repercussions or how this ends, nothing will ever top this. This is kind of their peak of their existence. And yeah, what a way to end the film. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I mean this. Yeah, as our listeners can probably tell, we're both
It's not going to go well. It's not going
very much in love with this film. Very
Mhm.
much. This film is everything I want from a film. High stakes, a great story, interesting characters, perfect soundtracks, and visually just very creative and inventive. Like I couldn't ask for much more from a film. Really, I adored it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I can't really see anything that I had an issue with. I mean, everything kind of served a purpose. It's 2 hours, 10 minutes. It does feel its length, but in a way that's hypnotic and carries you through and keeps you. There's just enough doses of little bits of information that they are giving you throughout this film to keep you invested and interested in the characters. And really, at the end of the day, keep this being an unpredictable film, and this is completely unpredictable in every sense. You know that there's going to be a climax and there's going to be something that comes at the end of this film, but it's you never have your finger on the pulse. You're just completely enveloped in this dynamic that is completely multidimensional. All three of them have something different going on, and you feel like by the end of the film, you 70 to 80% understand each of them, but there's enough mystery behind the screenplay and the performance where you feel like there's still more layers to be under wrapped here. And that is something that keeps you, there to the end and wanting more. So it's a real achievement in character writing, at least. Forget about all the other stuff great that this film has going for it.
Yeah, great screenplay. I honestly, you're right about the length, but in a way, I didn't want to leave this world.
No,
and I
you're
think
right.
It was because it was so exciting in terms of every scene had there was a different element that had this little spark of visual language that hadn't been seen in any other scenes. And sometimes, in other films, you'd think that was a bit weird that the language of the film changed so much scene to scene, but every scene I knew I was going to get something exciting and something I hadn't really seen before. Even so much as the night before there's this raging storm and stuff's flying everywhere. The weather is the pathetic fallacy. It's this idea of this idea that what's going on in their head is internal and external, and then you've got this love scene lit up by the red light of the cars.
It's a famous shot.
Lights. The frame rate changes as it slow motions on Zendaya's face. Oh man, there's so much cool stuff going on in here that every scene I was just this is so exciting.
And never does it feel like it has a novelty value to it or it's performative at any point. It's
I was grinning in that final scene. I was on edge of my seat, just grinning. I was worried at one point I looked like an absolute idiot. Just
No, you didn't look like an idiot, man. You're just really.
You weren't there.
You weren't there, man.
You weren't there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think maybe that's a better way of putting it. I felt the length because I was scared of the movie ending. I think that's a way you can feel a movie's length sometimes, is just keep going. And I was disappointed actually when I was like, oh yeah, this is the final gladiatorial battle to end all battles at the end of the movie. Can you give me one more backflash segment and then come back to it again?
Give me challenges too. And don't do anything different, but also do everything different.
just more is more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know we sound such fanboys at the minute, don't we? But it is. I do really think it's that good. I think it depends who you are and what you're looking for. But we're gonna hyperbolize here, and we're gonna we both said. I think it's kind of the most excited we felt about a film going into cinema for a while. I know we did love Dune Part 2. We loved it. We really, really did.
And to be honest,
but it's different.
I don't want to put one film down to bring up the other, because I think I'm really happy that.
No, I just think it's worth mentioning because we did love. I didn't want to say no other movie mattered to me this year, because it did.
Yeah, no. I if anything, it's really exciting that there's been 2 films this year. That have left me, absolutely thrilled and reinvigorated in kind of cinematic spectacle again, and one of them being obviously a massive blockbuster, which was Doom Part 2, but one of them being this kind of more mid-budget film. And yeah, I personally, I think anything it would take a lot to knock that off that top spot for me right now. But I thought the same of Doom Part 2 when I watched that as well. So really exciting to be there. And if you look at a lot of the films that have come out this year, they're all mid-budget, kind of £50 million or 50 million budget films. Are we seeing the return of these kind of size films? And if we are, fantastic, because we've got challenges out of it.
Oh, really good way to put it. Yeah, you don't need $300 million to make a good movie. I think we've proven that now in the last few years that actually, if you spend $300 million, it might make your movie bad.
Yeah.
But no, this I can't say anymore. This movie's great. We loved it, but it almost looks like makes our review of In the Land of Saints and Sinners look tepid in comparison. Any other day that would have been our like number one movie of the week. But no,
that's why we wanted to start with it. I think
absolutely,
or else we'd drying it out a little bit. I think.
Alex, what have we got coming up next week? Did we talk about it on the recording?
No, we haven't spoken about it yet. So, well, we obviously have to watch Pata Panchali, or you do anyway.
Well, I do.
And then after that, the big films. So that would be the BFI films, and then the big films would be Love Lies Bleeding, and
we've got the Fall Guy.
Yes, okay. We did mention about doing the Fall Guy. I wasn't 100% sure that we were going to do it, even though we said it on the podcast, but you have actively booked in to go see the Fall Guy. So that means I'm going to have to figure out now when I'm going to go see the Fall Guy before next week. So, yeah, we'll try and make that one work.
You got to keep up with the kids, Alex.
Sure do. Oh, and I want to see the Harry Styles fan fiction turned into a movie with Anne Hathaway. What's it called? The Idea of You.
It's not a great title, but apparently it's a good film. So I didn't know about this until you told me before recording this podcast. Yeah. So it is now on my radar. I will try to get to it as quickly as possible, and hopefully we'll talk about it here on the show.
Next week we'll either do 4 films, we'll do 3 films, or we'll do 2 of those films, and it's all up in the air as to which ones we'll do. But hopefully we'll be back with another BFI film.
It'd be funny if like I watched 2 and you watched the other 2, and then we both haven't seen the same films.
Yeah, that was early us, in the early days of the podcast when we'd not really synced our movie watching schedules, and we both be like, "Hey, I've seen this film and I've seen a different film." Be like, "Okay." Good.
Have you listened to any early episodes recently? I forgot what we sounded like.
No, but I do want to go back and maybe have a listen, because we are coming up to episode 100 now, and obviously we're going to have a big lick of paint, as you called it earlier.
It's going to be a clip show version of a podcast.
And, I just wanted to reminisce a little bit before we do a big change. So maybe I will. But yeah, I imagine it's a little bit different. Probably still as bad at ending the show as we always were.
Yeah, I think you and I just need a big ass meeting about how we top and tail this show.
I think we've worked out how to top it, but we haven't worked out how to tail it, which is why we do what we do now, which is just kind of ramble off into the distance. You heard it. That's what we're doing next week. Thank you for listening to this episode and letting us gush about challenges. If you haven't seen it, sorry that we went so in depth and you haven't seen it yet, but you should go see it, even with everything that we've spoken about.
I am worried, though, that people will have such high expectations after listening to this episode.
They'll be met. Trust me, they'll be met. I've been telling everybody about this film. I told my brother about it, and he went and watched it the next day. Loved it. Didn't like the ending, but he did really like it. But then he did just say, he said, "You really love bromance films, don't you?" I was like, yeah.
You really do, actually. I had to keep my distance from you, Alex.
What can I say? Go listen to us on all the podcast platforms. Go follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Film Angle. I'm Alex.
I'm Kris.
Goodbye. Good night.
Go see Challengers.